Welcome to this printer delivery e-learning series. And today we are looking into the scheduler of the B1 printer delivery. With the printer delivery tool, you have various ways of doing your deliveries by doing the emails, making prints, saving documents, and so on. For the scheduler series here, we will just talk emails, but the other things can of course also happen. And we have essentially three different ways. You have just go to the screen you are on and do your delivery in terms of an email, do your mass delivery if you want to have it in multiple. Again, we have a separate e-learning on that, and send out multiple, in this case these 1000. But if you just want, and our recommendation is to say, let people work on the documents, let people work on their invoices and so on, and let schedules do all the heavy lifting so they don't need to think about remembering to send and everything. Make that a schedule, and that is what we do internally on Boyum, and we very much recommend you to do. So the scheduling you access from administration, add-ons, B1 Usability Package, module configuration, B1 printer delivery, and schedules. And if you've already seen the e-learning on mass delivery, this will be quite familiar with a few extra twists. But a schedule is essentially just a schedule on how often it should do a mass delivery. And as it says down here, it requires our server component. I have our server component here. You can see there's no setups right now, but that is got what we're going to set up right now and have it run automatically. So again, like mass delivery, but just on a schedule. And the first thing we need to do in order to make a schedule is to give it a name. In our case, we have a scenario where we want to, that every 5 minutes, we want to send out any unsent sales orders. So let's just call it send sales orders. Because then our users should just make the sales orders and 5 minutes later it will auto send it out to the various people that need to have them. We will choose sales order and we will just let it use the default. I only have one set up anyway, so that's completely fine here. We will say that we want to email, but as you can see, we can print and save as well doing this. Of course, it doesn't make sense to just show the reports because it's an automated system behind the scenes. Then we have two fields, one that's called success email and one that's called error email. Success email is optional, but we will put it in right now and then talk a little about it. So the schedule will run, in our case, we will set it up every 5 minutes. And on a success, it would send an email to the success email. That's why it's optional. In the beginning of you setting something up, it might be nice to see, yeah, it's working, and then you will get rid of the success email and then only take hold of the error emails should you have such. So we will just put in my email here in order for us to do this. And then we have similar criteria as we had in mass delivery. And once you set this up, you will probably not want to send every single thing you have ever used in send out in SAP Business One, especially if you have run Business One for a long time and then are adopting print and delivery. So in many cases, a schedule is a good thing to set up from this sales order number. That is when we want to begin to send this out. So in my case, I will set up that it's from 1177 because I have that, 8 and 9, so 3 just for the sample here. So I will not set an end. I could also set it from a specific day, or I could go in and make my mass delivery control it using, for example, a field here. We have a separate e-learning on how to do that. It's called report action SQL action. But I'm happy with this setup, and I will just add this. And once I go back to it after it's been added, I can preview. And right now there would be no data. That is because I've already sent these already. But if we make a new sales order, like this, and let's put in a date, we just add it. The preview would now say, yeah, there's one to send. So let's make one more in order for us to actually see at least two things happening. Need our delivery date, which will be today, and our preview will set up. And my system have not sent out anything yet because we hadn't really set up the schedule. And the out-of-the-box schedule will say daily at 2 in the morning. We needed to choose some setup, but what we wanted we want to have it every 5 minutes. So from midnight today, every 5 minutes, the server start time doesn't really matter when it's minutely, but we want it to start from today and just run forever until we figure out that we want to do something else. And if we do this and we have the server component, I can refresh here and it will show it to me that every 5 minutes it will send out my sales orders. And that will of course take some time. So I will cheat a bit and press this button. But behind the scenes, this is a Windows service. If we go here, so there's a B1 Usability Package component main. This is the service that runs it. And just so you can see the way it works behind the scenes, this is a bit nerdy. So if you don't care, don't bother with this. But behind the scenes, it will run this little executable and send a bunch of command line arguments to it in order to do the work. This is so you never have any memory leaks or anything, and we can run it on a schedule. But enough about nerdy stuff. Let's go in here. And right now we haven't seen anything happening. We can go into the event logs and see that sure enough, it picked up that we have this. And you can also see it changed it because we changed the delivery part from daily at 2 o'clock to the system. So it will roughly take until 1905 in my case here, which we can see is fairly soon. So I think we will just, I will just pause this recording until it's 1905 and we will see the result of this. So now we are back, it's 1905 and this has run. We can actually see that in the server component that it said it started the component and it was done with the component. And it actually took very, very little time, and that's because this actually failed. And if a system fails like this, it will create an event log for you that you can, I did this on purpose, so you can actually see the same result happening. So if there's no errors, we don't generate this thing, but if we have, we see it. And if we look inside it, it says emails generated before grouping and so on. This doesn't know what happened. So it says down here, could not send to 002 email, sales order, unknown delivery method, no server delivery method for report action email. So this is the error message here, and in my inbox here, I got exactly the same, where it's a bit more easy to see exactly what's going on. So if you get some of these, and that's the reason why we want you to set up the SMTP components inside the B1 Print Delivery to configure it here, because else you will not be notified if something doesn't run. You might set this up and just leave it, and 2 hours later, day later, the customer come back, nobody have sent anything. Another way we can see this is also we can see that it couldn't really do anything. So we should have some error logs around this as well. And it's exactly here as well. So it comes up and say, no server delivery method found. So we can see it in various different ways, but the email is the one that you actually notice. So let's fix this. In that, if we go to our email configuration, which I haven't opened for the first time, so it takes a little time here. There we go. We can see that we have a client delivery method, which I have used in all the previous sessions, but we haven't a server delivery method. And in order for us to send it, we need to have some SMTP or Exchange, because we can't really make Outlook do it. You don't have an Outlook installed on your server, and you certainly don't have the Outlook linked to the server itself. So it's SMTP or Exchange. I will use SMTP here. That's the easiest one, but you can choose as you go along. And you need a SMTP. In an earlier session, I just created a dummy here, but let me make it the Boyum SMTP. This is not a server you can use. This will only work on internal Boyum systems. And this is what I actually use inside the wizard here. Oops, in order to do it. So I'll take the same SMTP server and use it in here. It doesn't need any special credentials, but if it did, you could double click here and enter the credentials. You could use Office 365's setup and everything, depending on what you need. The from mail, I will just make something that makes sense. In my case, it's the RWD demo at boyum-it.com. So this is the mail the real invoice was sent at. So if you have error messages or email messages, this is the SMTP that will be used. But when you actually send the real sales order, invoice, and so on, this will be the SMTP that's been used, because there you want it to be from the time. In many cases, it's the same system, but that is why there's two of them. So everything for the real setup and anything for the management setup of this. So we have now put this in, and let's save the system. So with the SMTP, so we actually have a server delivery method, again, our main error message in the beginning. And I don't really want to wait again. Actually, it's been now 10, so it ran every 5 minutes. So we might have gotten one more because we just updated it just after 10. So we don't really want to wait for 15. So what we can do in the server component is to trigger it early here. This is essentially just say, don't care about the schedule, just run it for me now in order for me to test. So I will run it here. And you can see it's running this B1 print component executable behind the scenes and doing its work. It won't really show you anything here, so we can just get rid of this. And await it's done. So now we have triggered it again. And if we have a look inside SAP, first of all, we can look at the delivery log, where there's nothing yet. So let's see if we have another error message. We can again have a look in the error log. Could be that I've written something wrong. Let's have a look. Yeah, so we actually had an error message more. What says a recipient must be specified. Okay, so why is that? Well, if we have a look, we have set up that the document selected contact person should be it. And in this case, this contact doesn't have a contact person. And while that is okay in Outlook and drafts and things, it's not okay in an SMTP. So if you don't provide us with an email, of course we need to fail in this system. So we could either make a contact here, or we could choose one of the other delivery methods here. We have tons of e-learning on choosing that. The easiest one will just be to take a direct email, but just for the sake of it, let's make a contact here called Rasmus and put in an email. So we will do this, and now we should hopefully have a better setup. So we try. We need to, in here, just go back and forward and be able to choose the user. There we go. So now we have actually someone we can also send this to. So let's try again. We will do the manual run here, or we would have waited for the 5 minutes system. But again, we don't need this. And hopefully something would have gone better now. Let's have a look at the delivery log. And we actually see something have sent for this one. And if we quickly switch away from this and just say, let's see what happened today, because this is the first time I sent today. So yeah, we actually got our document sent. And if we look in my Outlook, we can see the document is here in order for us to send. The other error mails were here. Again, the one about a Recipient was to be specified, and a few things where we did that. So you saw here now that we actually got one sent, but there are still some problems because we can't really send for this one because it also doesn't have an email. So that is, of course, mandatory data. But because it's so advanced here, we can't really check it up front. We need to just try and fail. So that is essentially everything. Again, there could be a different server delivery method. You could have different schedules. You can go in and make them minutely, hourly, daily, weekly, monthly, one time, or last day of the month, because it's so different that we have different number of days in a month. So that is everything. A bit longer video, but it will also show you from end to end what can go wrong and what you need to do in order to get all of this running. So with that, thank you for attending and hope it was beneficial.